something ridiculous happened 2,000 years ago that revolutionized the planet Earth, and it's been undersold for the last 2,000 years. I started telling that to people probably 30 years ago, one at a time, and probably have had an opportunity like one-on-one to over 100 people.
Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Well, good morning, everyone. This podcast is brought to you by Ward & Ward Law Firm. Ward & Ward Law Firm, your personal injury attorneys and estate gurus, and Charlie P. Ward is just an all-around great guy when you're in a jam. He's a great guy to know when things are not going well for you in your life because he actually has wisdom and he can cut to the chase quickly. So we want to thank Ward & Ward Law Firm for sponsoring today's podcast. And Keith, when they sponsor the podcast, what are they actually doing to sponsor the podcast?
I think normally we get 2 Gatorades and some potato chips or something like that.
I get a business card.
Oh, okay.
and so there is something in it for us. We get a business card. But in all seriousness, I was thinking, we don't have sponsors of the podcast, but if we did, I would want our friends to be the sponsors. So I just want to throw out Ward & Ward Law Firm as just a huge source of wisdom in my life. I know they've helped many of our clients. And if you got a question that's on your mind and it's just bugging you, Charlie's a great guy to talk to.
So Caleb is a NASCAR fan, right? Like he's been that as long as I can remember. And you kind of seem a little NASCAR-ish this morning. You've got a little sponsor on your outfit there, but like if you could pick your sponsors. So you're going about your life every day and you had sponsors on you like a NASCAR. Like what ideas or people or persons or things would pop on your outfit on a normal day?
It'd have to be some stuff that I just genuinely like, that I could just talk about, that I shop there, that I enjoy going there. Something with very little effort to enjoy.
I would probably need not a lawn chair, but a bag chair manufacturer, because I like my free time, I'll sit out and enjoy it, or maybe some walking shoes. I have a particular
some walking shoes. Are you for real? Like some white New Balances?
I got dark blue Brooks on, so I don't know. I don't have a brand though. I'm not gonna be
nothing against white New Balance.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Doug, know your audience, man. So yeah, I think so. I would do a lot like a bag chair, some kind of type of walking shoe. In the day, it would have been a running shoe, but you got to be true to yourself in it. And then I'm kind of biased. Like I'm a 1995 New American Standard Bible kind of guy, so I don't know. Like that would look really funny going across the Lockman Foundation.
That's really funny. Yeah. So in today's podcast, what we're doing is we're doing something a little different, and this idea came to me from a friend of mine. His name is Kyle. And I was watching a movie that he helped out with. And I just heard relationships. That just being stressed over and over, relationships. And so one of my favorite relationships is Keith. And I thought, what we're going to do today is we're going to interview Keith like a regular podcast would interview somebody real cool. And so we're going to interview Keith today, and we're going to find out more about Keith. And some of you have been walking through life with Keith. He's been your financial advisor. He's been your friend. Maybe he's been your parent. And we're going to find out a little bit more about Keith, or you're going to hear it from him or me in a different way. And I'm excited to interview you today, Keith. That was the thing that was on my mind this morning, was the value of relationships are so important because they're the things that just keep bringing life, and they're joyful. So to kick things off, Keith, and I know you're normally the one in charge, and so you just sit back and enjoy you being you. But to kick things off, I want to know, we got Mother's Day coming up, so we're just going to kick things off. And I want you to tell us just what your mom meant to you.
That is a great question. Mom, we went through seasons with mom, and so there were different seasons. And I think the rich season was the end of her life, and that kind of gets me even thinking about that, teary-eyed. But my mom grew up in a volatile household, and so she modeled a volatile household as a child. Some people that would frustrate, but somehow by the grace of God, I was able to kind of see my mom as a little girl inside an adult body, if that makes sense, and kind of look at her that way as I matured. I mean, I had to be aggressive with mom about things all through my life. I had to stand up for myself, but I just loved that she loved me, and she knew that she struggled to get it right. I was maybe 8, and she went to some teaching convention, and we came home from school one day, and she had what's that paper? The color construction paper that she had cut out. She was a first grade school teacher, and she had the letters PMA on all 3 of our bedroom walls. PMA, positive mental attitude.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't know how many years that stayed on my wall. Yeah. So
give me your pen. I want to. I know I can rewatch this podcast, but I like to take notes.
Yeah.
PMA. Okay.
Yeah. And so that just always struck me that she knew she struggled with that, but she didn't want us to carry that on. So that's Mama.
Positive mental attitude.
She cracks me up too, because I like. She sent me a card when I was in college that said, Keith, why settle for B's when you can get A's? And she signed it, Love Mother, which I just to this day think is hilarious. We never called her Mother, but it was the teacher in her. And my attitude was, if you have to ask why I'm settling for B's in college instead of getting A's, we can't even have the conversation. B's are just a lot more fun.
Where did your mom go to college?
Evansville College.
Was it a teaching college?
Probably not. It might have been. It was a private college. I know. That's a big deal.
Okay. And so
somehow she was in Bloomington. I don't remember why
she became a teacher. Why did she do that?
I don't have any idea. I know she loved to teach reading, though. Reading was a big deal to her. She had her picture in the Evansville paper many times about being such a great reading teacher.
And that's a big deal to you. You used to read aloud handbook. That's one of your favorites.
It helped me, yeah. I think in the 70s, there was just a push on reading that I don't know that it's as big today, but
definitely not.
The reading aloud part helped me understand that somebody reading to you can captivate your soul to go, oh, I want to keep reading this book. And so Mom did that. There was a 4th grade teacher, Eva Nurse, that was a friend of Mom's that was a big reading lady, and she did that in 4th grade even.
Well, thanks for sharing about your mom.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Okay, now here's something. Have you ever received a letter from Keith? Yeah, Keith is a letter writer. And if you've ever received a letter from Keith, it not only is it a letter that he's pondered and thought about and he's written, but here's the question: why stamps?
I was sitting in the driveway with my son-in-law yesterday, and he said somebody's looking for a job that they got a marketing degree. And I'm like, what does that even mean? What is marketing? I don't think I would ever hire somebody if they told me they were marketing. But the idea is that marketing is a big kind of invisible thing. But when you're trying to get people's attention, you're trying to get them to do business with you. It goes ultimately, maybe marketing is a funnel and sales is the end of the funnel. Like it's getting the thing done. And I can't recall, it might have been Nick Murray. It was Bill Good marketing out of Salt Lake City. They were just talking about ways to communicate with people and to get their attention and get them to pay attention and respond. And one of those with Bill Good said you just want to use colorful stamps when you mail things, because it'll make the difference between somebody opening the envelope and somebody not.
Okay, so behind me here in this drawer, we have a collection of fantastic stamps.
Yeah.
Do you handpick those?
I select them just when I'm thinking about the year ahead newsletter. And stamps, I wish I didn't have to use them, but I feel like I do for a while longer. But the Postal Service has been such a train wreck, and I inherited my grandmother's stamp collection. And if I think I'm going to work on the June newsletter and send it out, but it's going to literally cover the whole envelope with stamps to get it mailed because of inflation. And so not a big fan of the inefficiencies of it, but I found when I looked at my grandmother's stamp collection, I learned a lot of history, like the old Scott stamps, probably the pre inflation proof ones. They all have a really good history to them. You can learn a lot about America by just looking at the stamps. But we probably inherited 100 pounds of stamps.
Really?
Yeah, and so it's split between my brother and sister and I. But you can't. I literally grokked a couple weeks ago. Will the post office trade me current stamps for the old ones? And they won't. And so it's kind of like a boat anchor having those things. What are you going to do with them other than use them? And you have to cover a whole envelope to use any of them.
Do you have a favorite, like a stamp of all time that you can't wait to use?
I used them already. I'll have to look it up, Doug, because I enjoy. There's several I enjoy, but there was an Abraham Lincoln Scott stamp that I really liked it. I like it because it's kind of my life.
If you're watching this on our YouTube, and if you're not watching this on, better yet, if you're not watching this on our YouTube and you want to, go to YouTube, Gimbal Financial, and you can see what Keith is pulling up here. He's looking through a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the one I want. If one of the things you'll learn if you ever pay attention to stamps is searching for an Abraham Lincoln stamp is about as futile as an effort as it is. But there they are right there. I don't know if I can read it. It says, this one says, give me liberty or give me death. That's not it. But there's one of them that talks about freedom, and I'm not seeing it out there. But one of it looks like a certificate, that stamp. I just love the idea. I'm all about people living in freedom. And so the idea that Abraham Lincoln stood for freedom and died for freedom, I think I would literally die for people's freedom and not necessarily in the physical realm.
So if you were to get stamped with some kind of tattoo, would you?
I might use that stamp. I'd have to,
something like that.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and find it again before I commit to it. Yeah.
Speaking of freedom, one of the best stamps of freedom used to be on the Indy Star.
Oh, yeah.
2 Corinthians something. I don't remember what it is. 3:17 maybe.
Something like that.
Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
Yeah.
And So okay. So stamps, you see you like the marketing advantage.
Yeah.
You like it probably goes deeper than that.
Well, I come from a long line of pack rats. Doug, you were in Uncle Bill's house, right? Like so,
which his house is looking pretty fantastic right now.
Yeah, and I've lined up an interview with that realtor for us to talk about those sort of things in the weeks ahead. But my grandmother was very tidy, so to go into that house and see what Uncle Bill did to it compared to my grandmother is a different experience, right? Like, but I couldn't. My grandfather was a insurance salesman with Western Southern Life in the day that they would go door to door collecting your premiums, not annually, but monthly, I think, which I don't even know what that means. And I've read in some of the stuff I found at Grandma and Grandpa's house, I've read letters that people wrote during the Depression. And so I can put myself in that time, like trying to imagine what living in the Depression was like. That doesn't scare me. Some people freak out about economic uncertainty. To me, it just means it's a creative time. When you don't have anything, you have to be creative. And so just going through my grandma's stamp collection and looking at it, and so the pondering the stamps is thought-provoking, but just imagining her doing what she was doing and like, wonder what she was thinking. Like it's a tedious thing. I might have some of them here or not, but yeah, I don't see what. But some reason she would take a stamp and wrap it in wax paper, like a literal little bitty stamp. And I would just try to imagine what was she thinking and what was she doing, and just it was what I think people did during the Depression is they had hobbies that they kind of enjoyed, but it just burnt time. There wasn't TV or a cell phone to burn time with, and their hobbies did it. And so she would go over to Indiana University. She knew, this is what I envision. I don't know for a fact, but she would go over to Indiana University, maybe the library or someplace, and get all their old envelopes and then go home and steam all the stamps off of them.
Whoa.
And then she would stack them like old fashioned newspapers when she'd dry them out. So I just see.
So these were used stamps.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I never saw her do all this. So her stamp collection just gave me a window into her life during the Great Depression. And like uncle was born in 1939. So that was kind of the end of it. So he was coming of age after World War II. He would always tell me he grew up during the Depression, but the Depression was mostly in his rearview mirror. But they kept, he was a lifelong bachelor, so he lived with grandma and grandpa all those times. So yeah, so that's the depths of stamps. It's just kind of interesting.
So like grandma, starting the stamp collection. Something I think about with you is you are a starter. Some would say entrepreneur, but to really break it down, I think you're a starter. And I made a list of things that I know of that you've started. And I'm curious if any of these on the list jump out to you that you want to talk about. Here's some of the things that Keith has started. And I love to dream. I have a very romantic worldview of peace and harmony and flowers and all this stuff. But there's a difference between dreaming about something, having a vision, and starting something. The thing that I like about starting is it's action oriented. It's doing. And so here's some things, Keith, that I've listed that you've started. And if one of these draws interest to you and you want to talk about it, let's do it. Or all of them, whatever. We got time. Okay, so you started a business. You started a family. You probably won't agree with this, I don't know, but you started a church. You've started a community group. You've started a podcast. You've started a rental. You started a stock market strategy. You've started a newsletter. And so all of those things you've been very consistent with. I think that's your superpower, your consistency. But they had to start from somewhere. And so talk about either starting or talk about one or a couple of those that might help people get to know you a little better.
Starting, I've stopped things too, Doug. So like we started a tax business, and so I had to stop something too, right? Like so, I don't know if it's Stephen Covey start with the end in mind, but I kind of have this depth. Maybe like I'm not. Like I've got a picture on my screen, a couple of them that I've taken that like when I see something beautiful, I can't necessarily create something beautiful like Jeannie's painting on the wall there, but I can see something beautiful, and the future to me is beautiful. And so like the marketing idea of finding a need and meeting that need is always in my head. Like I probably all the days of my life, I always see needs. I just don't have time to accomplish those needs. So when I'm starting things, I think I'm always thinking about how will the world be better off by my presence here. And I don't even need a memorial. I don't need to be remembered. I think the idea that I've been entrusted with greatness in me, and I need to share that with the world in some manner. And if I start something, it's to leave the world better, I think. And so like with our tax practice, I think our tax practice was unbelievable. I just couldn't find a way to get it done without involving me, right? I got it started and it wasn't me. It wasn't my thing. I could get it started, and if I could find somebody to push to keep it going. But when I couldn't find somebody to push, I had to just unplug it because it was consuming me.
Yeah, that's a good reason to stop.
Yeah. And I think, and anything I start, I try not to leave it open-ended. because I think people are afraid to stop things. And I think that's wrong. I think that thinking that something needs to go on indefinitely is maybe it's caught in your ego. It could be, I don't know what it is. I don't think anything besides God is indefinite. And so to start something and feel like you got to keep it together, that's part of what makes the stock market interesting, because there are certain things that just won't keep going and people will keep throwing money at them and cause them to blow up and stuff. And just being honest enough to say, I started this, there's nothing sacred about it. Let's bring it to a healthy ending is good. But yeah, I think that's maybe my creativity doesn't show up on a palette somewhere. It just is in helping things.
So if you've enjoyed stopping something, what have you enjoyed starting?
I mean, I'd be a real loser if I didn't mention my family, right? Like I'd be
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody knows that.
Yeah. I think starting a idea that is non-traditional in, say, Christian circles, starting that idea and helping others see that idea. I don't even know. I can't even give it a word what it is. It's an idea that something ridiculous happened 2,000 years ago that revolutionized the planet Earth. And it's been undersold for the last 2,000 years, and just trying to present it to people in a way they may rethink it is the best way I could say it. I started telling that to people probably 30 years ago, one at a time, and probably have had an opportunity like one-on-one to over 100 people.
So in the spirit of starting, one of the things that you started was running, and you started running at what age?
I think you helped me kind of think about it. You went out early when I was running and would run it in the woods with me, but probably in my 40s, I think. Yeah.
And so as you've been running, tell us where you spend most of your time running.
Well, I also have stopped running because of arthritis or something in my right knee, but I walk a lot. But you helped me early on in my 40s to realize trail running was healthier than running on concrete or asphalt. And so I would run at a place in Fishers called Ritchie Woods. And a lot of times prior to COVID, I would be the only one in the woods. And it's not so anymore, but I know the woods well enough that I can get away from humans if I need to. So it gives me time alone.
So you're definitely not alone in the woods, because when you're doing your walking in the woods, if you caught Keith on Facebook, what do you call your Facebook thing?
Keeping it positive with Keith.
Keeping it positive.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? Keeping it positive.
Yeah.
And so you've been keeping it positive for how long?
That was something I started during COVID in 2020. I don't do it as frequently today, but it's on YouTube now. There's probably 500 of those videos that I did over that period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you had people give you feedback?
Yeah, I did it because I sensed literally when COVID started that this is a leadership train wreck that's going on. In Genesis, it says it's not good for man to be alone. And when I could see probably the first 20 days of COVID, that this is a train wreck of leadership, that you should never have done this to humanity. And so that's when I started it, was to try to give people an uplifting thought process for their days. Yeah. And I've got a variety of different feedback over the years.
So when you're keeping it positive with Keith, do you ever run out of ideas to talk about? And then what do you do?
I haven't. I did a series. I kind of took my friend Bob Warren's Roman study that's intense as all get out. Like it is the most intense study I think I've ever gone through. And most people don't have the attention span to get through it. So I taught it in 3-minute spans over a period of time. So I taught that for probably about a year. It took a long time. Then I did a series, and I have to think about it, that it's called What Do You Think? And the tagline is, I don't think you think everything you're tempted to think you think. And I said that 50 times. I did that 50 times. And then I was with a fellow that was in a bad circumstance back in August. And I said something kind of Pollyannish to him that just annoyed the fire out of him. I just got out of his $500,000 swimming pool or whatever it was after like 3 or 4 hours.
That's a nice above ground pool.
It was like 3 or 4 hours, above ground. And so I said something to him, and he came at me aggressively. And
those
like,
are good friends to have.
Yeah. And so he's like, why should I do that? And I thought about, I only had a split second to respond to him. And I said, because there's hope. That's, even though your circumstances stink, there's hope. And so I've done probably 25 kind of little thoughts on, and then there's hope, because if there's not hope, I don't know why else you'd walk on the planet Earth, right? If there's not, like, if my circumstances, if that's all there is, I kind of, Abraham Lincoln is kind of my poster child in my mind, that I could have horrible circumstances all the days of my life. Right. Like Abraham, he lost siblings. He lost a parent. I think his wife was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And then he's trying to free the people, and he ends with a bullet in his head. And so his circumstances stunk, but I believe in the core of my life that his life mattered in spite of his circumstances. And so if you believe, which I don't, that your circumstances have to be good for your life to be good, I think you're not looking at life properly.
At Shreve House, we speak of Abe Lincoln all the time, and it's normally, how did he do it?
Like, how did he keep a positive PMA? Positive. I don't know how he did it.
How did he grow up in a 3-walled house or whatever? Well, not a house, but a structure back in the day, and he went from that to the White House. How did he do it?
I mean, he grew up close to Evansville, like so. The whole Ohio River Valley is
the entire Midwest claims him.
Well, but he came across the river down around Louisville and then worked his way over to. So a lot of that was in my childhood. They had every place you go, Abraham Lincoln stuff. But then I've been to the Ford Theater a couple times. I don't know if you've ever been to there in DC. Yeah, and they have all those books stacked. Like, is it like 3 or 4 stories high of all the books written about Abraham Lincoln, and all that it just helps me to remember is like my circumstances are irrelevant of whether or not I make a difference on this planet. Like, I could have horrible circumstances, but that doesn't dictate whether my life matters. And so that's what I think. I think a lot about him. I don't like read a lot about him. I've read enough to know about Abraham Lincoln, but I think I don't know what any of our viewers' circumstances are. I mean, I know some that you might tell me, but mostly all our culture does with social media is talk about the good stuff. And that stuff's not that. I've been around enough good stuff. It's not that interesting to me. How you got up this morning, if you're Abraham Lincoln, and went about your day today, that's kind of interesting to me.
So how do you get to the interesting with relationships?
Say that to me.
How do you get to the interesting with relationships if everything is just kind of sugar coated or just the good stuff on social media? How do you actually get to the really great things about somebody?
I think one of the things that wasn't on your list that I might have mentioned, I started mentoring men one-on-one I learned about it through the Christian Businessmen's Connections, Operation Timothy back in the 80s. And they challenged me, kind of pushed me to go take one man that knew less than I knew and spend a year or 2 with him and help get him farther down the road. And I didn't understand the benefit of that, but it's a twofold benefit. You get a friend that's a rich friend from what you're talking about in those, usually an hour or 2 a week for those 100 weeks or whatever. And I didn't realize that I would entrust them with what little information I had in 1988 or whenever that was, but they would be pushing me from behind, right? Like, so they would ask me questions and I wouldn't know the answer. Then it would push me, and then I'd be kind of a push and pull relationship. And that in that process, I kind of concluded that most men don't have real friends, is what I concluded. And you have to be a friend to have a friend. And if you're willing to walk through life with a man or a woman, if you're a woman, men walk with men and women walk with women, is what Bob Orton used to say.
He wasn't even trying to be funny, but no. he was funny.
Yeah. So if you do that with somebody, you can't help but get just dirty with like their circumstances.
So like most Christian guys think you got to wake up at like 5:30 a.m. to walk through life with another man. How do you practically do it? How does someone do it today?
Yeah, the first time, one of the first guys was a guy named Eric O'Brien. Then he introduced me to a guy named Todd Hopkins, and then Todd became one of the executives at that ministry over the years, and that's all those years ago. And so when I think about it, what I did is I didn't know anything to mentor somebody. So if I was Caleb's age, Caleb could do it. He probably just feels like he doesn't know anything, but all you have to have is one person that's a step behind you.
Yeah.
And if you just bring them along for the ride for a year or two, then you go to the next person and you keep doing it. All of a sudden, your wisdom, I think, expands and multiplies. And so conceptually, I didn't even know how to find the one. And the guy, John Greer, that I was hanging with, he said, just pray and God will bring somebody across your path. And that I did that in 1988. And I haven't really longed for somebody to hang out with. Like usually somebody will show up. I just started hanging out with Dalton here a couple of weeks ago. And it's a secret to my success is walking through life with another person keeps you relevant. It keeps you interested. It keeps you interesting. And it also keeps you aware, I think, of the ups and downs that other people will go through and can help you even, nothing against them. It can appreciate where you're at in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heath, to close this thing out, I thought I'd do a little speed round. I don't know who I hijacked this from. This could have been a Tim Ferriss thing.
Okay.
I don't know, favorite podcast or whoever does this. I think it's just brilliant. And so you can go as long on these answers as you want. And we're going to get to know you a little bit better here because of these. I call it the 7 speed round. Okay, so what is a book? And I use the word a because you like a, not the. But what is a book that you'd like each of your friends to read?
I would say Bob Warren's Romans 1-8. And if you could get the one that was older, back like the 80s version of it, which I have a copy of it that I could probably get for you. But I think it revolutionized my life. So there are ideas there nobody else has ever told me.
That's the one that you just pass out. You throw to strangers as they drive by.
It is like a good idea. You can give it to somebody, but they're never going to use it. I've given it.
But when they do,
yeah, if somebody goes through it, it'll revolutionize.
I went through it.
Yeah, I think it's the only reason we're together.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So Keith was crazy with a capital K for Keith, and then I went through the Roman study secretly on my own and just had an awesome adventure doing it. So the Roman study, that's your jam.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a piece of advice for the new Pope?
Seek the heart of God. That's
good. Yeah, that's really good. All right. Favorite American city or town?
Town. I'm going to go Evansville. I know I can't believe I'm even saying that. City. I think I'm getting old, Doug. I don't know if I like cities as much as I used to, but if I had to say historically, it'd be New York City.
Okay, 2 things to do in Evansville.
I'd go see the Picasso and House of Como.
2 things to do in New York City.
I would go down to I can't even think of the name of it. There's an elevated train thing over on the I can't even think which side of Manhattan it is, but it's an elevated train trail that takes you down towards the financial district. And then I'd go to John's Pizza because that's what Rudy Giuliani told me was the best. And every time I've gone to John's Pizza, he also said, be sure you go to Bleecker Street. So that's where I'd go.
Okay, that's good. Now, if you could take someone out to lunch today, past or current, whatever, who would you like to have lunch with today?
I literally came in the office today. I can't remember how I verbalized it, but I told Caleb, I have to almost pinch myself that I get to come in and see you every day. So who would I take to lunch? Any one of my family members, like immediate family members, my children or my wife, or their spouses.
Good, Caleb. Yeah, that's pretty good. So you're going to buy Caleb's lunch. That's good news.
I say that, Doug, because I've been fortunate to be around a lot of world famous people in my lifetime, and none of that's done anything to me.
Yeah. That's how I figured you might answer it. Now, this one, I have no idea how you'll answer this. Favorite possession you have had or currently have?
Man, that's so hard.
He's not a real possessions kind of guy, so I wanted to get this out of him.
I'm gonna go.
He's got something.
I'm gonna have to go with one of my RVs. Like I think I don't possess it anymore. I was glad to see it go.
Yeah.
But I had so much fun with it. I think any possession that I have fun with, I enjoy. If it just collects dust, I'm not really that interested.
So I figured that's how you might answer that question. So the next question is Class A, Class B, or Class C?
For me or for anybody?
For you.
Well, I am.
Not talking mutual funds here.
Yeah.
Talking RVs. Class A, Class B, or Class C?
I don't know if Dave Cardwell watches this. We need to give him a shout out and send him this one. But Dave is a lifelong friend or college long friend. He's in the Lexington area. And one day, I think I was having lunch with him or something, and he said to me, I'm just an average driver. And it just spoke to my soul in such a way that here's my friend that I've known since we were in our teens, as honest as he could be. And I think saying how good a driver you are, if you got a scale from 1 to 100 and you picked a number on there where you really are, that tells about how honest you are in other things. And when he said he is average to me would be a 50, right? Yeah. And we were probably in our 40s when he said it. And I just stared at him. I couldn't believe it. And I think I'm probably, Caleb would probably have an opinion on what number I am on that scale. But I think at the best in driving an RV, I was probably a 40.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and so I think with time, I have to go towards a C is where I got to go. Because, I mean, my last Class A, I don't know too many people that drove it that didn't wreck it.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing
I know I wrecked it.
Yeah. And so your reflex is a little slower and your vision. So yeah, I'd have to go C now. But Class A is where it's at. No, that's like if Caleb would drive me, I'd go Class A.
It is tough to be a Class A.
John was our driver. He got us everywhere, right?
Okay, last question. If you had $100 and it's got to be spent before 11 o'clock tonight, where does it go? What do you do with it?
I mean, I can tell a story. Can I just tell a story?
Yeah.
I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago.
It's your podcast.
Yeah, it was when my friend Elizabeth died. It was such a heartbreaking thing for me, and I had $100 in my money clip that day.
Rock on. Okay.
And we're standing at John and Jeannie's counter in their kitchen, and her son, Gunner, he goes by Van now, is sitting there drinking a cup of hot tea, and his mom literally just died like 8 hours before. And I'm standing there beside this boy, and my brain is just thinking about his situation. And my daughter Kelly's standing there with me, and Gunner says, "Could you imagine finding $100?" And he's like, "This could be the worst day of his life, right?" But he's got some energy. And I said, "No, Gunner, what would, like, I don't remember how old he was, 9 maybe." And I was like, "What would that be like?" And he goes, "Do you know anybody that's ever found $100?" And we just started having this conversation, and his energy level was so high that I was just like, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I knew I only had one thing in my money clip, so I didn't even have to pull it out of my pocket. And so I pulled the $100 bill out of my money clip, dropped it on the floor below his bar stool. And then because there were a lot of people mulling around, I had to tap my daughter on the shoulder to let her understand what was going on so I could get out of the room. And I went outside with the men at that point and just to envision what was going on inside. So that was the most favorite thing I ever spent $100 on. And it probably speaks, if you want to know who Keith is, that probably speaks to who I am as much as anything.
Finding Your Treasure with Keith Tyner. This has been a lot of fun. And again, want to close it out and thank our sponsor, Ward and Ward, Charles P. Ward. Now, Keith, last thing for you. This is a question every podcast interviewer asks. Where do we go to find out more about you?
You can go to Keith Tyner on YouTube. I'm out there. You'll have to search for me, but I bet you'll have fun. And if you want the best ones, go to What Do You Think? Because I think those are really good. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Doug.